former Minister of Education of Slovenia. After completing a politics degree, he obtained a doctorate in political science from the Ljubljana University Faculty of Social Sciences. He then pursued further studies at the Karl Franz Universität in Graz, Austria. After serving as government advisor, he occupied the posts in the Ljubljana Municipal Administration and at the National Assembly. He is a sociology lecturer at the Maribor University Faculty of Economics and Business. He has written a series of original scholarly papers and works of political analysis. He has been involved in the work of the executive bodies of the Slovenian Democratic Party, SDS, since 1992, at first as an advisor and subsequently as a member. He is currently the chairman of the council of the SDS. He is also active on the international political science, for example, within the extent of the European People's Party or through political associations such as the International Republican Institute and the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. Please welcome with me our last speaker, His Excellency Mr. Zver.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, first of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the invitation and for opportunity to participate at this conference. It's first time for me. Then I would like to thank to ICD Institute for an excellent cooperation with my country, particularly with our government and some NGOs in Slovenia. By the way, in October this year, a very successful conference on human rights took place in Ljubljana. It was organized in cooperation with the ICD and my EP office in Ljubljana. Today, I would like to present my view on two, in my opinion, crucial matters of our time. Firstly, how to strengthen the democracy, and secondly, how to improve the role of young people in the modern society. Do they have good social and professional competencies to face their responsibilities in the future? Allow me, at the very beginning, to present a few remarks on democracy. Maybe I am still under the impression of violent unrest in my country, where some extremist groups were trying to destabilize the government. I'm concerned about the situation in Slovenia, but nevertheless, we will need a more general approach if we want to find a valid interpretation of current situation in the world. The world is still affected by the general crisis. The financial, economic, and social crisis go hand in hand with the political one. People doubt the viability of the democratic institutions. It is not the first case in our history. The whole story of murder of democracy happened already in the first half of the last century. In the ruins of the modern democracies have appeared Nazism, fascism, and communism, as well as some authoritarian regimes. Many people saw the fall of the Berlin Wall as the end of the last totalitarianism, as a complete victory of liberal democracy, etc. They were very enthusiastic about it. In fact, a new wave of democratic energy broke out and thrashed communism into the dustbin of the history. A new democratic culture has arisen. Mass democratic movements and new political elites have developed. However, different studies show that the enthusiasm for democracy is decreasing. Democracy is in recession. It made a step backwards, according to the economist studies, researchers. The problem is particularly acute in the post-communist countries. People have less and less confidence in democracy and its institutions, particularly in the parliament and the political parties. The participation in elections and other political activities is getting lower and lower. Instead of a proactive citizen, the apathic citizen is becoming increasingly visible in the given circumstances. The apathic citizen does not see the opportunities for active involvement in the public dialogue. He is confused and disappointed. He is against all. He feels like an angry outsider. He is suspicious of everyone involved in the politics. More and more often, the politics seems a conspiracy to him, so he avoids it, but he is preparing to participate in the unrest. Well, we all know that the current democracy is not the best of health. We are confronted with the evident lack of democratic culture and democratic deficit at a different level of our common life. Therefore, the key questions are what to do and how to strengthen the democratic climate. I see two solutions. Firstly, to improve the political culture or software of mind. And secondly, to improve the democratic structures. To reach the first goal, we need better education, and education for democracy. It is necessary to consolidate democratic values among young people. There is no doubt the democratic political culture is the strongest guarantee for ensuring sustainable development of democracy. Who should carry out these processes, in particular education for democracy? In the first place, school. The role of the education system is a crucial one. School should offer the answer to what is worth rejecting and what is not. What kind of values and social structures should be maintained and preserved in the society. In this sense, school can offer the basic knowledge and on democratic politics and in this way contribute to the creation of an active democratic citizenship. The second place, science. The duty of science is to seek for and to establish scientific truth. Social science and humanistic discipline have a particularly important role. Particularly history should make a clear distinction between democracy and its standards on one side and totalitarian system on the other. Politics at the third place. The politics or its central organizations and institutions such as parliament, government, political parties, movements and politicians have a central practical role in the political education for democracy. Politics should be most attentive to totalitarian phenomena and patterns and detect them in everyday life. Media at the fourth place. The media should play a crucial role in the political socialization and in increasingly the level of political culture. But there is some problem, particularly in the transitional countries with the media space, which is very asymmetric. Democracy has to be also structurally improved. We have to provide a better transparency of democratic processes and more opportunities for greater participation of citizens, not only at the local or national level. It is also necessary to develop democracy at the EU level and increase maybe United Nations level and increase the European dimension, global dimension, especially as Europe symbolizes the values of democracy and fairness. If we open the debate on the youth and the future, I would like to underline that young people should be equipped with social and professional competencies, like democratic and professional skills. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we touch the questions of the educational system. Our common democratic future depends on the successful integration of the young people in the society. Despite the fact that we are becoming an aging society, that means there is a lack of young people, there is more than 5.5 million unemployed young people in the European Union, and additionally there are 2 million young people who left school too early. Namely, the education system should provide young people with appropriate competencies for active participation in the field of politics as well as active participation on the labor market. In Europe, I must say, the education system does not function well. Of course, the member states carry the biggest part of responsibility. Therefore, we have to conclude that, firstly, many young people are not appropriately equipped with democratic values and competencies. Therefore, they can't play an active role in the political field. And secondly, vocational education and training and the higher education do not offer relevant skills that are needed in the labor market. A clear sign that something is wrong with the education system is when the economy looks for certain professions but is not able to find them. 1.3 million vacancies in the EU cannot be filled. On the other side, there is a surplus of some kind of professions profiles which are rejected by the labor market, according to Monti report. As I stress in my Youth on the Move report, there are many general problems and challenges in the European education. Therefore, it is necessary to rethink the educational system in the EU and find common answers. The latest paper of the European Commission on Education, Rethinking Education, calls for a fundamental shift in education, which more focus on learning outcomes, the knowledge, skills and competencies that students acquire. This way, we are launching at EU level a debate on efficiency of education, which has always been a taboo. This debate must focus on the main issue. The education system should produce such learning outcomes that society, particularly the labor market, can accept them. Stakeholders, policymakers and politicians agree that Bologna process must go on. We need the new generation of university, the new mission of universities. We need more universities like Stanford and Harvard, Cambridge and the Catholic University in Leuven. But many students do not support Bologna reform because it forces them to study harder. The old university still has a lot of charm also among the teaching staff. There is no doubt we cannot be completely satisfied with the results of the Bologna reform. It seems that both the authorities and the stakeholders have interpreted the reform too much as a technical project. They have not paid enough attention to the reform of curricula, study programs and education outcomes. But we are going into the good direction. Bologna process will lead to a new university that will be focused on higher level of understanding and more practical applicability of acquired knowledge and skills. Nowadays, interdisciplinarily is pushing out monodisciplinarily. Applied science is taking place of pure science. Universities must be open also for research activities and business. So-called 3G university, the third generation of university, must keep representing excellence and high quality. It has to find different financial resources to keep their autonomy. However, the main problem of current education lies in the investment in education, as well in the organization and in the understanding of the role of schools in the modern society. That is why I strongly support the initiative of ICT Institute to establish a new intergovernmental organization for youth education and development. I believe that it will be successful in gathering solutions for further modernization of education system and, most of all, in providing much needed solution for the young people. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We'll take some questions, but before that, I think the problem of education, there are no elements of entrepreneurship. And schools and universities are geared more toward producing job seekers rather than entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship should be incorporated in schools and in universities to create more entrepreneurs who can create more jobs rather than job seekers.
At all levels.
At all levels, yes. So we take some questions, if you have any question. Yes, take the lady first, and then gentleman afterwards.
Hi, Hi, my name is Dragana. I'm studying at the University of Bradford, UK. I was wondering why is interest in democracy decreasing? Is one possible reason corruption in new democratic governments, especially in the former Yugoslavia? You're here, well, at least in communist regimes, we had jobs and opportunities to travel abroad, and with new governments, we just don't have much. So,
Thank you. In some way, that's true, but I think the general crisis have today a great influence on the decreasing of democracy or on the recession of democracy. But it's true that the level of democratic culture in the post-communist countries is very low comparing with the west part of these traditional democracies. And we can see that the turnout at the election is very low, particularly at the EU election. 29% in Slovenia, its turnout is very low, but in some countries of the East Europe is even lower. So I think that democracy is based also on the democratic culture, not only on the democratic institution or a democratic structure. So we have to do something in the, as I said before, in the education for democracy. So we have to involve these questions in the curricula at the all level, not only at the highest level of higher education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. More a comment than a question because yes, absolutely. Adrian Bannon, I'm a social entrepreneur from Ireland.
From?
Ireland. More so a comment than a question because I agree with a lot of what you say. Bar one thing I would quibble a small bit with. The delivery of education I would cite as much as the issue of resource allocation. I run a computer club where I'm from, and it started out in Ireland, and in less than 2 years it's now teaching computer code to 6,000 kids across the EU and America and Africa, 25 countries, and it was started by, touches on your point of entrepreneurship, and we're also teaching Chinese Mandarin as well. And we do this on Saturdays. And the reason it's popular with the kids is because it's the antithesis of what they experience in the day-to-day school system. We don't have a rigid structure. We don't have a dress code. We have a drop-in facility. We have a 3-hour window. And our best gauge is our numbers and our repetition. And this has cost governments around the world zero. And it's producing an army of coders, which, as we know in the EU, the biggest skills deficit is arguably in the ICT sector. So just my point is just on the delivery of education as opposed to resources per se. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a good, your remarks. I think regarding your questions or point that you stressed, even the higher education should be decentralized. The so-called Humboldt University, that's the second generation of university in its history of universities, is centralized, is supported by the state, by the regulation and financial means, of course, and it's too stable, not stable, but it's not flexible enough for the modern society, particularly for the modern economy. And that is so big gap between university production and that what labor market and society need. I think that in the future, the third mission of university should completely reorganized, and we have to completely change the philosophy of the higher education. And Bologna reform can help us in this sense. Bologna reform is not only in the framework of European Union, as you know, but is a global process.
Hello, my name is Ariam Stockhausen from the Art Academy in Dusseldorf. The Academy is now slowly starting to be a member of the Bologna process, but has fought against it for a long time. I feel there are a few problems with the Bologna reform, one of which you mentioned, which you said is a good thing, that it's very output focused. I just read a study that because of this focus on output and more on quantity rather than quality of education, we in Germany have now, since the Bologna reform has taken place, had a rise of about 40% of students taking antidepressants because they feel the burnout is starting much, much earlier. And yeah, I was wondering what you have to say about that.
Yeah, but there is some other advantages in Germany. You have a dual system in the secondary level, and it is very effective and efficient. There is very low percentage of unemployment students who finished secondary education. But I think the Bologna reform should go on even in Germany. I know that there is not big support in Germany when we are talking about the Bologna reform. This is some kind of reform that came from West to the Europe, but I think that European economy need it.
Hello, my name is Philip von der Wippel. Thank you for your presentation. When I look to the different understanding of democracy in the different members of the European Union, I think it's not enough to put emphasis on the Bologna reform, because you only can guarantee democracy also in the future if you have a look at the whole society. And that's not only the members of the Bologna reform, when you understand what I mean. So what's your idea about this? I think we need the whole society to guarantee democracy in the future. Thank you.
Starting with family as well, but I said in my speech that there are four socialization agencies for that: school, media, maybe even church, or but school has the main responsibilities to develop some democratic values among the young people. And today the media are very affected influence agent or factor, and it is extremely important to develop some humanity and democracy among young people. But the acute problem is in post-communist countries that we have not so balanced media space yet. But I think the science has also important role in education for democracy. But school, even in the secondary level, primary level, and especially at the third level, has the crucial role, the most crucial role.
Thanks. Well, first of all, thank you for the talk. I'm Christoph Semken from the University of Aberdeen. I was just wondering, you said that we need more elitarian universities, like in America, there's Ivy League colleges, Harvard, and you mentioned Stanford. I was wondering, what do you think, how can we assure that there's still some sort of equality in the educational system? Because, I mean, in America, in the case of America, we can see that it leads to a huge inequality, that people who don't have the financial resources or, well, lack the results in their high school tests, cannot go to good universities and ergo don't get good jobs, well-paid jobs. I was just wondering, what's your opinion on that?
Equality, assessment, etc. I think in Europe are not the problem, the number one. I wanted to say that the efficiency of the education is the biggest problem in Europe, in European Union, but in the world is probably the equality in education the biggest problem. Yes, maybe even in United States, but you know, the new universities should develop some, should have more financial supports, not only from the state. They are losing autonomy if they are under the state control and only with one financial resource. So there is 5-6 possibilities, and in this way universities can become much more independent from the state and state authorities. But equality in education is a problem in the world still. How to solve this problem, I don't know at the moment.
Hello. Thank you for your speech. I'm Marjorie Garces from Chile, South America, and I'm a teacher. I'm a visual artist and singer, and I've been working in international matters with a foundation for the past 7 years. And until today, or until this conference, I had no idea that I was doing diplomacy with the projects that I have been doing. I recently co-founded a project with an artistic initiative to portray or to explore the identity of the indigenous people of my region, so that we can change the stereotypes that we have between Chileans and Mapuche people, based on the 8 stages of genocide, of Genocide Watch. So I'm very touched by this, but I was only driven by passion for peace, for justice, and only that. So I think that the information that you have right now, if you could convert it into passion in your heart, so that the people around you can also be that you can be contagious a little bit. Maybe it could spark something, and it could, even without information, without funds, you can make still a difference. So that was my comment.
Thank you. This was not a question, but typical Latin American is okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
At the election, the people make decisions sometimes on the basis of the heart and intelligence, not only the. You're right.
Hello, my name is Rick Meyer. I'm from Zuid University of Applied Sciences in Maastricht. I'm a lecturer there, but I'm also a curriculum coordinator. So I was wondering if you have to give me advice to go back next Monday to work, what should I do? What should I implement more courses on democracy, or should I maybe recruit more financial aid from elsewhere, from companies?
Both of them. You need.
But how?
You have to find try to find some project that society can pay for you, and also the student needs some social competencies that can get from you.
Hello, I'm Laura. I'm a student at the London School of Economics, and we study a lot the tensions between shared competences and exclusive competences at EU level, and arguably education is something that individual member states are very attached to, and there are big differences between educational systems between states, and the link between youth and education is extremely important. And but there's a lot of European youth that never go to university. So as you say, primary education remains perhaps the most important platform. Could you see maybe in the near future the EU having shared competence on education, and maybe they have organizing like EU classes promoting democracy, or would that always remain at the member state level?
We have to change only curricula and the educational process in the classes. That's enough. To change the curricula is the way to solve the problem, to keep young people with the democratic values and competencies. But the curricular reform is usually very hard to do. This extremely conservative part of the educational structures. Okay.
Last question.
The last question.
Last question. Sorry, it's only I'm allowed only comment for time. Yeah, we're here in the House of Arts and Culture, and you were talking a lot about efficiency. And I would think that as soon as you start putting more focus on efficiency, arts and culture come last.
In some way, you are right. I think the first questions of the future of education in Europe is how to bridge this gap between the university or school production and need of society. And that is why we have to rethinking the education in Europe.
Well, we're closing now. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. A big close. Thank you very much.